We good? We are. Thank you. So, what we just watched wasn't easy. The encounter that took Michael Hansen's life lasted only 89 seconds. But the consequences will ripple through this community for years, and this is something the family will never be able to forget. This story forces us to ask hard questions about how our system functions when no one is watching and whether justice is applied equally to everyone. And again, we are not anti-law enforcement. We simply ask that those who enforce the law live up to the same constitutional standards they swore to protect. That's not criticism, that's civic responsibility. Now, before we get to our Q&A session, we did want to provide a couple of updates about where we're at with a couple of court cases as well as with the next season of the Cascade Effect. First, in recent weeks, there's been a major development, something we've really been waiting for, and I know the family has as well. The Hansen family has officially filed a civil lawsuit in federal court, the estate of Michael Hansen versus Cascade County et al. This case argues that Michael's constitutional rights were violated and that the official handling of his death fell short of legal duty. This is about accountability, not vengeance, about ensuring that when something goes wrong, our institutions actually answer for it. Because if the law doesn't apply evenly, it doesn't protect anyone. Alongside the civil lawsuit, we've spent more than a year working to convene a citizens' grand jury, which that's something Bart will be able to truly talk about and is in a couple of other episodes later on. And a grand jury is a constitutional right under Montana law and the United States Constitution. Both Judge Elizabeth Best and the Montana Supreme Court have denied that request. So our next step is to go to federal court, arguing that Montana's courts have denied citizens their constitutional right to a grand jury. And this is where principles meet perseverance. As I said, we've been working on this for over a year and a half. And we're not just raising awareness, and that's really what we're here for tonight is not just awareness, it's about raising support. So our goal, especially because this takes legal fees, is to raise $30,000 to cover current and future legal costs. Now, one thing that if you had a chance to grab as you were walking in, there were different flyers that were on a stand out there. So there, it tells you a couple of ways that you can donate as well as access the Cascade Effect. But you can contribute tonight by cash donations here at the event, checks that are made out to Peaceful Sea Productions, the name is on those flyers on the stand, or scanning the QR code on that flyer for online giving. We also have Cascade Effect merchandise available, which you'll see out there on a table, and also more online. You can see some of us sporting some of our Cascade Effect gear, so definitely get them. They're very comfy sweaters, so I would encourage you all to get one. All the proceeds from the merchandise will go to these legal funds, and then everything we're doing comes from that same belief, that those who actually enforce the law must also follow the law. We're not asking for special treatment, only that our constitutional protections mean the same for everyone. So right before we start the Q&A, we do have some exciting news. We're beginning production of Season 2 of the Cascade Effect. So while we will be working still continuously on the legal fight for justice for Mike Hansen, we're starting Season 2 and production of Season 2, which will cover Catherine, a Montana resident whose experience reveals deep failures in our judicial system. Kevin and I spoke with her recently on the Undercurrent podcast, and if you've heard that interview, you know her powerful story. Season 2 will continue our mission to expose how ordinary people can be caught in systems meant to serve them. You can find all episodes, current episodes of Season 1 and any future episodes that we produce on the Peaceful Sea Production website, plus Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble. So please follow and share, and that's really how this project ends up growing. So we already have Kevin, Bart, and Jake on the stage, so we will go ahead and start our Q&A session. If anyone has a question that they would like to pose to us, and we're more than willing to be challenged in terms of some of our opinions and biases, so we welcome those as well. But just raise your hand and we'll have someone come to you with a microphone. As folks raise their hand or consider, let's just start with each of us, kind of give a, brief introduction and how did you feel about watching the first episode again? Jake, do you want to start?
First off, I do not accept people coming up here and challenging me, so please, none of that. I directed and produced the series with the help of these three. It was very interesting watching it in a theater for the first time with an audience. It's a unique thing these days to actually be able to watch your work in in the theater. So that was kind of cool. And I really appreciate all y'all coming and showing up.
What am I supposed?
You got to turn it on.
What am I supposed to say?
Introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Kevin Leatherbarrow. Obviously, you saw me up there, and it's weird seeing you up on a screen after all of this time. Like we said, we've been, what, a year and a half, right? And to see it go from absolutely nothing, and me and Tony, before we met Jake, sitting and arguing about a warrant. I think we argued for I don't know how many times. And he would not go with the warrant hypothesis, and then so we were like, no, we would get mad at each other, and we'd be talking, whatever, as we do more investigations. But to see the digging, the hours that we have spent with this is astronomical. It consumes you. Can't sleep. I wake up in the middle of the night, write down notes, go over, look at the recording again or the transcript again, and then texting Tony probably at 4 a.m. so you can see a text the next morning. And so, I mean, just all of the work that has gone. And if we wouldn't have met Jake, who came to a meeting, and we hit him with this chestnut, when I watched the first episode, I was in awe at what you had did with it, and how clear it was for everybody to be able to understand. Going out to the scene really brought it home, I think, when we went out and actually started our investigations out there, and it gives you an eerie feeling, and especially now when you see it on the big screen, and here it is. But that's kind of in a nutshell. And then we met this guy, so you can talk now.
Good evening. My name is Bart Crabtree. Last August, I got a phone call from this dude named Kevin Leatherbarrow. And I checked my messages, and I'm like, well, who's this Kevin guy? So I kind of knew who Tony was from pachyderm meetings prior to that. I didn't know Jake at all. I didn't know Kevin at all. So I called Kevin back, and he told me about what they were doing. And I was much like him and all the others. I knew a little bit about what had happened that fateful day in February of 2023, or 24, excuse me. So I agreed to meet with them, which I did. And the reason Kevin did contact me, I believe, is he had heard of some work that we had been doing at the legislature here in Montana. Starting in 2021, we started bringing some bills specifically regarding the Judicial Standards Commission. I won't go into details there, but after the 21 session, our board, I'm one of the founding directors of the Montana Citizens Council on Judicial Accountability. And after the 21 session, we started thinking about state grand juries and started looking into it. And in 2023, we brought a bill to make it easier for we the people in our sovereign state. We the people are the masters. We are the bosses. The people in the government are our servants. People need to realize this, okay? So we were working on grand jury, and we brought it again. Well, first of all, in 2023, our grand jury bill did not make it out of House Judiciary Committee. And the reason why is because so many people are very ignorant in the classic sense, meaning uninformed, as to what a state grand jury is, okay? A grand jury is not like a jury in a courtroom in a trial. It's not even a jury. It's a panel of Montana citizens that meet in private and review information and evidence into a possible crime, rather than the police or the sheriff's deputies investigating the crime. It's you and 10 other people here in Montana. It's 11 people on a panel. And it could go on for a month, it could go on for 6 months, depending on how long they need to accumulate evidence, et cetera, et cetera. And then that grand jury would hand down what's known as an indictment or a true bill, which means if they say, yes, there's enough evidence here to prosecute somebody for a crime, then they submit the true bill, and the judge and the prosecutor have to bring criminal charges against that person. So then we brought it again in 2025 because it didn't even make it out of House Judiciary. And this past winter, it came out of House Judiciary. We had a lot of people there testifying in support of this grand jury bill because people are starting to wake up about the truth of what grand jury can do here in the state of Montana. I see some of you here showed up there in Helena to help testify for that bill. We appreciate that. Made it out of House Judiciary, went to the House floor, and it got 40 votes. So I was not disappointed. I was actually pretty ecstatic that we got that many votes. So we're looking forward to 2027 to bring this bill again. It's just a matter of time, and it's a matter of educating people. So anyway, Kevin contacted me because he heard that we were doing this work with the grand jury system here in the state of Montana. So I met with them. I looked at the information that they had been looking at, and I immediately contacted our board and said, guys and gals, we got to jump on this. This is too important not to get involved with. So we decided to get involved with it, and here we are today. So that's my story.
Well, I already introduced myself, but I think just one thing I want to say before, and again, if you have any questions, raise your hand. We'll get someone to you with a mic. It's been, again, probably even over a year and a half now since this was February 2024. But I mean, we've made great relationships with all of us here, the Hansen family, and I mean, that's one of the small silver linings that truly has come of this. I think, the friendships and that we've forged has been really wonderful. And watching this again, despite the very crazy hair of mine in there, it was pretty fun to rewatch it and just kind of relive all the memories again. So, any questions from folks?
Well, hold on. Yeah, wait, well, there's more to that, because we didn't know he was going to be so damn professional, okay? All right, so, I mean, we're just dressed in regular clothes. He didn't say anything. So, your hair? It's fabulous. Yes, fabulous. I wanted to say another thing, too, though. We got some feedback, and it was on the family, and we got some, how can you be doing this to them? We want to let you know we contacted them before we moved forward with anything. They were foremost in our minds, our hearts, and we knew that this was going to be tough to kind of walk through and take this journey. So thank you for the privilege of actually investigating and letting us be where we are today, too, guys. Can't thank you guys enough, because I can't imagine what it is to go through. Anybody could tell their story, but nobody really knows. And we did have that in our thoughts at all times on what the families were going to go through, and made sure that they were okay with everything that was going on. So I just wanted to let them know.
Questions? Wherever you want to go to first, Louis.
That's okay.
Okay. Hi, my name's Randy.
Hi.
I have two questions, if that's allowed. My first one, so recently the sheriff put out a video on Facebook about how they always use an outside source to do their investigating. How come that did not happen in this case?
So, I mean, interestingly, it sort of did, and that's what he was talking about was with this inquest. It's a coroner's inquest, and when it's happens within the county, you can't use the coroner, who would be the sheriff, to be the one leading that. So they pulled an outside coroner, but if you, and one of our episodes actually covers the inquest, the transcripts of the inquest. I had the opportunity to go there and listen to it live and record it, but sure, they had an outside coroner running the inquest, but it was truly a show that was ran by the county prosecutor, so Josh Rackey. So he got to set the narrative, he got to establish the facts, and there was no opposing counsel or any sort of opposing narrative that was provided to a 6 or 7 member jury of the inquest panel there. So yes, it's true that they did have some sort of outside group, and they had the Department of DCI, so Department of Criminal Investigations, but all of those guys have worked with one another. The guy that they had investigate from DCI was at Great Falls Police Department. At the same time, Sheriff Slaughter was also at Great Falls Police Department. So all these guys were connected with one another. And so that's why, sure, some of the things he said was true on that post, but there's a lot more caveats and nuances to it than what was posted there. So we don't think that was a fair investigation by far.
Yeah, when they say third party, bring in a third party to help with the investigation, that doesn't mean an independent, non-governmental organization. That means somebody who's not directly connected with the sheriff's department. And so that can be anybody else in government, but they're still a part of the government. And when the government investigates itself, nothing happens.
What is it you guys always say? The government protects the government?
That works.
Right. And I think they were involved in Pam's case too, right? Lewis and Clark were supposed to. I mean, so they're interjecting themselves and investigating again in that whole situation.
You had a second question?
I do. Are you ever planning on maybe looking into what's happening at Montana State Prison?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Bang, yes. Yes, we've got a lot of information on that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, a lot of information. We got our own opinions related to that for sure, especially with all the news stories that have come out of that in these recent years. So definitely.
Season 2 will touch on it a lot.
Yeah.
Who else had
Just let me know when you.
Hi, I'm Judy. I just have a question on the search warrant, because it's like, I understand animal cruelty, but it's not like it's not like a child abuse case where you want to catch them in the moment, because you're not going to pack up all those animals and move off somewhere. So on this search warrant, it being so urgent to get, I'm just curious as to what the search warrant was for, and why did they have to get a judge to urgently give one?
Well, first, it's Mike's property. It was his property out there. It doesn't. Montana code and law is very clear. I can shake Bart's hand and he can say, "You can live in my house," and it literally goes to him, and now it's his property, even though somebody else is managing it off-site or anything else of that nature too. Anybody else want to answer that?
Yeah, well, and I think, so the search warrant was for Pam's, for her truck, and I think the residence in general, because Pam did own the residence.
Well, they didn't have one for the truck.
It wasn't for the
Yeah,
truck.
they didn't have the truck yet.
Oh, you're right. They
The
didn't
truck
have
came later.
They didn't have the truck. But what they were searching for was what they found either that was bought at Walmart, so cat supplies, so cat food, I believe, or cat litter, and then bags that they saw when they were first doing the initial surveillance earlier in the day. So they didn't have, nothing on the search warrant indicated that they were searching for animals. It was for things that would have suggested that there were animals on the property. So not urgent at all. And I even talked with Sheriff Slaughter shortly after the inquest, and funny thing, he's never said this publicly or out loud. He'll only say this to people in person. But he said, yeah, the prioritization on that case, that was his fault. He told his deputies to prioritize those sorts of things, these animal cruelty things, because it's something that the community truly gets concerned about and gets up in arms about. So it was more of what I would assess as a political move from Sheriff Slaughter to make sure that he's appeasing the community and trying to avoid some sort of uprising from people being upset about animal cruelty. So,
Did they know that Mike was living there and that was his property? So, but they were there to investigate Pam.
Yeah, they
Yes.
did know that.
Yeah, Tri says it right out in the inquiry. This is Mike's property. I don't have access to it or access whatever. So he admits it in the inquiry itself. They knew Mike was living out there without Pam being present.
So was it Judge Best who, is she the judge, who was the one who signed for the warrant then?
That was Judge Kunzman. Kunzman was that. Judge Best she was who ended up reviewing our grand jury petition. The reason I say in quotations is because what was the size of that binder, Bart? It was like several. Yeah, it was a thick binder. With the thumb drive in it. And so we submitted that binder to our district court here in Cascade County, and within 2 hours, we got the order that it was denied. So Best supposedly read this thick binder, reviewed all the information, all the evidence, all the affidavits that we included in there, and decided that it was appropriate to deny the grand jury petition. Which, I don't know, sort of unbelievable to think that someone can read through that sort of thick of a binder that quickly.
Let me add one thing. Yeah, let me touch on one thing real quick. Here in the state of, there's a difference between federal grand juries and state grand juries, okay? Of course, we're working toward our Montana state grand jury. And our Montana Constitution and our statutes, which are fundamentally driven by our Constitution many times, is that only a district court judge here in Montana can authorize the impaneling of a grand jury. Now, back in 1993, there was a SCOTUS ruling by Antonin Scalia, who said, and he was the one that wrote the opinion in the majority opinion, that the grand jury is like a fourth branch of government. Okay, it's in Article 5 of our Bill of Rights. It's not actually in our Constitution. And it does not belong to any of the other three branches of government, the judiciary, the legislative, or the executive. So we beg to ask, why is our judiciary here in Montana controlling our grand jury? The grand jury belongs to all of us here. It doesn't belong to our judiciary, okay? We have a constitutional right to impanel a grand jury to investigate things if we know there's something criminal going on, or if we even think something might be criminal going on. It doesn't matter. It belongs to us. So what we're trying to do is change our Constitution here in Montana that would not only allow a judge to impanel a grand jury, but if a judge denied it, like happened in our case, then any one of you that sent that petition in district court and it was declined, you could go out and get signatures on a petition in your county from a certain number of electors that would then force the judge to impanel a grand jury. So that's what we're fighting toward now. The grand jury is the people's sword and shield, okay? It's the sword against corrupt governments, and it's the shield to protect innocent citizens. That's what it's about. So, and as they said, Elizabeth Best received that. It was like at 11 or 11:30 in the morning, and I think it was by 1:30 in the afternoon. It was completely denied. It was summarily denied. She didn't even give a reason why she denied it. Okay, we didn't cry about it. We went right to the Supreme Court.
I cried.
Huh?
I cried.
We went to the Supreme Court and filed for what's known as a writ of mandamus, which would mandate to the lower court here in Cascade County that yes, you will impanel a grand jury. The Supreme Court, no surprise, came back and said, no, you can't have the writ of mandamus, you can't have the grand jury because the four of us that applied for it, sui juris, do not have standing. Our Supreme Court was telling us, who owns the grand jury constitutionally, that we didn't have standing to impanel one. So that's where we're at now.
I'm Kathy Hansen. I question a couple things. Was Sergeant Try in regular clothes and not in uniform, just a vest?
Yeah, we believe, well,
Talk about that part of the inquest. I think that's about who else was on the property.
there's nobody else on the property.
Well, so during the inquest, at one point, Racky, the county prosecutor, asked Try if anyone else was on the property. Instead of answering that question, Try decided to go into detail about what he was wearing. He was wearing khakis. I'm guessing it was probably still a sheriff's deputy shirt, but not like a full uniform. And then he had his vest, but not even his most recent vest. It was like a backup vest or personal vest. And so that's how he showed up, and he was in an unmarked vehicle as well. So, no markings on it at all, just white. And you can see that in some of those pictures.
Well, the sheriff did testify in the inquiry that he was in his own Equinox. You can say that is Try's car. They tried to spin that later in the inquest, saying that it was a provided car or his, patrol car, but he was on lunch, so we can do the math. But Jesse does say that this is his Equinox parked where it was.
So how legal is it for a person to be conducting official business without being in uniform and stating that he is? Was he not breaking the law himself?
Yeah, he was breaking the law. He has to identify himself. It's required. So that was one of the things that on the list of things that we think he did incorrectly, that's one of them. He should have identified himself, and from there on out, everything he did was as a private citizen and therefore illegal.
And am I correct in understanding that the warrant still was not in Deputy Try's possession at the time of the shooting?
That is, yeah, that's correct. And just as a follow-up to that, because of this case, we actually got Montana law updated to make it very clear to law enforcement that they need to be presenting the warrant in order to exercise the warrant. That was Senate Bill 444, right?
Yeah, we have to give that credit to Jeremy Trevis for that. We worked with some legislators and them to get this done, and Jeremy put it in, and so now it has some changes to it. It puts more teeth into it, but in the inquest, they did not show 465227, which states he has to have either a paper copy or the original when he is there. And then, so now it reads a little bit different for that. So they have to give it to the person or the occupant immediately.
So in one respect, I'm hearing that Sheriff Slaughter did this to appease the people in the county, and in another respect, I'm hearing that we shot someone because someone else bought a bag of cat litter and cat food?
A misdemeanor, ma'am, yes.
Interesting.
My name is Rick Wolke. Thank you for explaining what actions you took after the grand jury request was denied so quickly. The fact that you guys were found without standing at the state Supreme Court, are you going to take actions any further, or is it done?
No, we're pursuing it. That's why we're pursuing it in two different ways. The most important one is to us is to get the grand jury impaneled, and we are pursuing that at the federal level now. From our understanding, under Title 18, Section 3332, as citizens, we should be able to present that same petition that we presented to the courts here in Montana to the Attorney General for the federal district of Montana. We should be able to present that to him and ask him to, who is now Kurt Alme. He was just actually confirmed by the Senate. He was appointed last spring and he was just confirmed. I'm sure some of you saw that on social media. But if we give him that petition under law, he's obligated to give it to the federal grand jury, like down in Missoula. Now, a federal grand jury in Missoula is constantly, my understanding, is constantly impaneled, and they rotate jurors on and off that as time goes by. So we should be able to give that petition to Alme, and then he's mandated to give that to the federal grand jury to review. So that's what we're looking at right now. And we're also going to be filing in U.S. District Court over our court system denying us the right to our grand jury. So that's the section that we're raising the funds to present to the district court. I mean, let's face it, it costs a lot of money to take issues to court, and this is very important for all Montanans.
Like stupid money.
Yeah.
And then just a couple of quick questions for my own personal information. Are electrical or electronic copies of the warrant legal in Montana as opposed to a paper copy? And where can I see the Cross Current podcast?
For the first one, the electronic warrants are sort of okay. You still have to, and it gets sort of, there's a lot of nuances in terms of what the law actually says, but it wasn't followed in this case. Like for electronically signed warrants from a judge, it still needs to be printed off by the law enforcement officer and then signed or initialed to confirm that that is the electronic copy, and then that is still good. So really, I mean, our understanding of the law is they need it, and this is what Kevin and I were debating quite a lot on. And I try to be pretty careful with my words and trying to make sure what we are putting out to the community is as factual as possible. So that's why we had these debates. But Kevin did finally convinced me that how it reads is that they still need a paper copy. It's just that the process that things are signed between the judge and the law enforcement officers can be through electronic means. But still, at the end of the day, you need that paper copy.
There's nothing in 227 that says electrical. Yeah, there's nothing. The first part of it, it says service of a search warrant is made by exhibiting the original warrant or a duplicate original warrant at the place to be searched. End of game.
So we read that as paper. And then your other question was? Oh, yeah, so our other podcast, the Undercurrent, that one where and the idea of that one with what Kevin and I are doing is just trying to get, because, I mean, the production value of what Jake does is fantastic, but it does take time. One thing that we've learned is, once we've started highlighting this, there's a lot of cases here in Cascade County and Montana more broadly, and so Kevin and I wanted to be able to provide a solution to that, where it's really just interviews with those who have had experiences with our judicial system here in Cascade County, our law enforcement here in Cascade County, and be able to get their stories out there in a more timely manner. And then the next step is to bring that to the Cascade Effect, where we all end up investigating that a little further, really getting down to the evidence and trying to understand what actually happened, and then obviously making some better production value out of it as well.
Two guys just getting together on a Tuesday, okay, and,
Yep.
and all the stuff that we've had, right, and we just kind of going through the list, and we're just kind of giving them a voice, right? So not professional at all. But definitely informative.
Available on YouTube is really, we posted on Facebook as well, so you can find the Undercurrent on both of those channels.
I am Ray. First of all, thank each and every one of you individually and collaboratively for your integrity and persistence. My question has to do with the records. I believe, Tony, you answered the inquest question I had, that you were there to tape the inquest. How difficult was it to get records and documents from the county for this, for your investigation? And thank you again for the persistence to get those records.
Well, Jake, want to tell them how hard was it?
I mean, there are documents we still don't have. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
They've stopped talking to me. Like,
They
I send
stopped talking.
emails and they ignore me now. So that, when I say they, I mean Sheriff Slaughter and County Attorney Racky.
Go petition for it, that's what they said. Go get it.
so it's extremely difficult is basically what we're saying. And it's getting worse. So.
Well, I mean, the point about the inquest, we got the transcripts. We eventually got the transcripts. We had to pay for those, which we found weird that they didn't actually have an actual audio recording, which we still don't quite understand that. But either way, it took us a while to get the transcripts. But honestly, if I didn't have that opportunity, I mean, thankfully, again, I work remote, so I was able to take a couple of hours off on that day to go and watch that public inquest and be able to record it. If we didn't have that, who knows where we would be now? Because, it was shortly after that we then met Jake and figured that we wanted to go forward with trying to get this out to the community.
One other thing about the grand jury, of course. When a grand jury is in session, let's just say Cascade County, that grand jury or panel of citizens set to investigate anything is the pinnacle of law enforcement in the county. It's we the people, we're above the judge, we're above the sheriff, and that grand jury can request, subpoena anything they want, and the judge and the prosecutor or whoever has to comply with that. There's no question about it. Now, of course, Montana hasn't even used a grand jury in like almost 40 years. And so bringing this back is going to take a lot of work. First, we have to get over this first big hurdle. And then after that, we're going to have to bring a slew of bills with the legislature to make sure that our grand juries that are impaneled in Montana stay with the grand jury and the citizens. We don't want the government meddling in it, trying to twist or distort or run anything. That's the way a grand jury is supposed to be ran. So.
My name is Isaac Fuller. What time was the warrant issued?
Can you speak up?
What time is it?
My name is Isaac Fuller. What time was the warrant issued?
Oh, that's a great question. We have it on record.
I'm not sure about the exact time, but it was issued when Tri and I think Detective or Deputy Smith were in the Smith's parking lot. And I don't think I quite covered it in the video. Either of their vehicles, and there was even a third deputy that was there as well, but he was called off because of how busy it was that day. So again, they prioritized this case despite having a lot of other law enforcement busy elsewhere in the county. But either way, any of those vehicles that were there, the law enforcement vehicles in Smith's parking lot, they didn't have the ability to print off the search warrant. So that was one of the things that Tri asked the other deputy to go to the sheriff's office and print off a search warrant to then actually exercise. His intention was never to exercise the search warrant until his backup actually got there with the search warrant in hand. He was just supposed to conduct surveillance. So again, why was he trying to ask Mike Hansen to step off the property?
And he sent his other deputy, though, to go take photos of the truck first. So, what priority?
Is it still true that you need a special permission or something if the warrant is past 6 p.m.?
Say that again?
Don't you need a special permission if the warrant is at 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., like there's some sort of...
That's a good question.
I don't think so.
We're not lawyers, we're not experts in the law as much of just being citizens who read the Constitution and our Montana Code annotated. But we do know that this event occurred around 5 p.m. or shortly after 5 p.m. So at least, I guess, like traditional business hours on that day. But I don't know if there's any actual statutes related to that.
No, they can wake a judge up probably in the middle of the night. And when you listen to the inquiry, if you go back into the Cascade Effect, you'll listen to how they explain how the proceedings go and what they have to do to get one. There's nothing ever saying that they can't call it 1 o'clock at night if it was warranted to go get one. Because they call a judge probably at home. They have them on speed dial.
Well, and another point to that is that, again, they didn't need to prioritize this. They had the search warrant. They had, and I forget, but they had multiple days, I think 10 days, to be able to execute the search warrant. So again, they prioritized this case when other deputies were busy all over Cascade County, and it was just Tri there trying to make sure that the community wouldn't get upset about another animal cruelty case.
And in an inquiry too, you're going to hear that, Tri calls Pam, and she literally gives them the truth that they have all paperwork for Mike's dog and the animals that are on the property. The other ones are Pharaoh. They're cats that are, being out in the country. They just show up. And so those were, that's where that was. And Mike wasn't on this warrant. I mean, everybody, we're thinking that Mike was not on this warrant. He had no obligation to do anything, really, at all.
Hi, I'm Renee. So, the warrant was issued because they were looking at animal cruelty of a suspected person who was in direct violation, they believed, of a court order. My question is, since this podcast is a lot about following the rules and following the protocols, what culpability do you give Pam Polajewski in this situation? Because had she not been in violation of rules given to her, nobody would have been out there.
So she actually wasn't in violation of anything. There was nothing about her terms of release that restricted her from buying cat food and kitty litter and giving it to somebody to take care of animals. The only thing she couldn't do was possess or take care of animals herself.
And that was the evidence with the fish that she was breeding for Jack's Pet Shop that she left down the road, correct?
I have
No idea.
There was no
Fish.
indication of that. There was no report of that, so there was no warrant for that. There was
In
no.
the civil trial in March that she was found guilty of, there was.
Well, and I will say, and I'm forgetting who the judge was, but I think he made it pretty clear that he felt that she was sort of tiptoeing the line about her court order. You know, I think folks can probably have opinions on that a lot of different ways. At the end of the day, you know, guns don't kill people, people kill people, and the person who had the gun that killed Mike Hansen was Detective Try. And that's really where we place the blame, and that's the Cascade County Sheriff's Office.
Hi, my name is Deidre. So I knew Pamela Smith. That's where I met her. And so I've known her for quite a while. And then I knew about her incident with the animal cruelty and stuff. And it made me kind of sad because I just never thought of her as that person. And anyway, I always thought, I guess because I haven't read this in a while, that Pamela kills her husband until today. So I'm curious, are you guys trying to free Pamela?
Our goal here is Mike Hansen and getting justice for Mike Hansen. You'll see in one of our episodes we do cover Pam, especially for the context of it all. I think there's some interesting things with Pam's case. And part of that, again, I think comes down to the sheriff's office to some degree. They are animal control here if we don't have an animal control officer. And so, you know, they had a duty to be able to check on those animals just as much as in past cases, just as much as they placed that responsibility on Pam as well. Again, I think there's probably a lot of opinions on whose fault it was with the animal cruelty cases, what the actual issues were there, but we're pretty firm in terms of what we're trying to do here, and it's really to find justice for Mike Hansen because he should not have died that day, period.
Yeah, as for Pam, she will be out in the next year or so. She'll be out of jail. She will served her sentence, and she'll be back, hopefully living in the area. Well, hopefully not.
I'm just concerned on why she even got guilty for tampering with evidence if she wasn't even on the scene. Even in your video, she wasn't even there.
So the tampering with evidence was at her apartment in Great Falls.
Which they knew nothing about.
Yeah, Yeah, so it had nothing to do with her property that Mike was on.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Leslie. After seeing what you've presented tonight, especially the audio, the question I have for all of you is, was there any prior interaction or knowledge of each other between Sergeant Try and Mike Hansen? Because I know that now you're saying that the warrant was not towards him, wasn't in his name, but yet he called him, hey, Mike. So did they know each other? Had there been previous interaction between them?
Yeah, so they did know, Try knew Mike Hansen because during Pam's, I think the 2020 case, and forgive me, I could be getting some of the dates wrong. Haven't there's a lot to these cases, but during the 2020 case, there were several sheriff's deputies who were involved in removing those animals, and so Try was on the force at that time, and Mike Hansen was on the property. So they did know about him, and I encourage you to listen to the episode where we cover the actual inquest, because that is something that they end up talking about is the history that they had. One of our complaints, I think that's important, but one of our complaints has always been they characterize both Pam and Mike throughout because of those incidents, as opposed to really just looking at the facts of that day or the facts that led up to that. And that's actually an important point for our next grand jury at the federal level. There was a recent Supreme Court case, forgetting which one it was. It was Barnes versus Felix. So that was this year, 2025, Barnes versus Felix, which precedent set by the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, that says they need to be, when deciding these sorts of things of deadly force or any sort of excess force, they need to be looking at the totality of the circumstances as opposed to just those minutes leading up to the actual shooting. And hopefully we've been able to convince folks here and the rest of the community that when you look at that totality, there are a lot of mistakes that the sheriff's deputy and sheriff's office had that day that led up to the death of a county resident. Yeah.
One other thing that jumped out to me when I first got involved with this was you saw in the video here, the podcast, the audio signature of the gunshots. Okay, everybody saw that. Why in that sheriff's report and when they had the coroner's inquest did they not present that to those jurors at the coroner's inquest? Secondly, one of the jurors pointedly asked the county attorney, didn't the deputy have to have a copy of the warrant? And they told him no. To me, that is huge. State statute is clear. They have to have a copy of the warrant, either the original warrant or a photocopy of it. They had neither of that. So those are two big things that I looked at, and with a lot of suspect. So.
And that question was posed to Sheriff Slaughter, if they needed a warrant, and closer to his words were, you don't need a warrant, it more or less bolsters your case, which, if you read the Constitution, if you understand your Fourth Amendment, they need the warrant.
If you read 227, they need the warrant. Now it's 4-4.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Jason. Sorry, I missed the first part of the presentation. I have several questions, but I'm going to try to limit the number of questions I have. I'll probably want to speak with you guys afterwards. The first question is, do you guys have attorneys that are helping you with your claims?
We do not give secret informants out. Did we seek people? Oh man, to tell you the truth, they came to us. There was one in particular. So we tried to get as much information as we probably could. We reached out to as many people as we could who are in the field, law enforcement, to lawyers, to whichever it might be, to guide us. Like you said, we're not lawyers. We're just citizens who like to torture ourselves with sitting interpreting law for hours and hours at end for some reason. So we did our due diligence in trying to reach out to experts and have them do it.
The reason I ask is when you guys filed your claims with the court here at the state level for impanelment of a grand jury, did they say anything to you that you needed to have a lawyer to represent those claims? They didn't?
No, they never said we needed a lawyer, but recognizing that our challenges moving forward, especially at the federal level, will definitely require that. Again, that's why we're here today. We're trying to raise those funds to be able to get the legal help that we need to be able to find justice for Mike in many different ways. I mean, the civil cases is just one of them, but what we're trying to do at the federal level is also very important, because that has implications for all of us citizens here in Montana, and not just Cascade County.
Second question, you guys were talking about the grand jury. Are you aware of the push on the East Coast right now with two civil litigator advocates, Tanaway Downing and Jessica Saxton? Have you guys heard of them?
Yeah, I've spoken with Tanaway a few times.
Okay, because they're also pushing for grand jury indictments as opposed to charging people by way of information, which is a big issue. So you're aware of them. I would strongly encourage this organization work in tandem with them, because they're doing a great and phenomenal job. They actually appeared in a Kalispell City Hall to give the city notice of federal criminal violations. My second question is, has the estate of Mike Hansen looked into, or have they filed a civil complaint for excessive use of force in either federal or state court?
Regarding the civil issue, I don't think we're qualified to answer that, but to answer your question about over on the East Coast, yes, about half the states in our republic exclusively use grand jury to indict somebody and have them charged criminally. Okay, now, first of all, a grand jury only investigates capital or other infamous crimes, meaning felonies, okay? Now, Montana opted out of using the grand jury here in the state of Montana. As you said, we exclusively use what's known as affidavit and information for leave to the court, where the county attorney simply files directly with the judge, and the judge signs off on a warrant, okay? This is another thing that we are pushing in Montana, is to change that to where the county attorneys have to use a grand jury to charge somebody with a serious crime, because frankly, there are a lot of people being charged with serious crimes, felonies, and being wrongfully convicted on it. Montana, as you saw earlier, I think Kevin had on the podcast, the National Registry of Exonerations. We started reviewing all their information 4 or 5 years ago. That's where we get our statistics. And Montana ranks second in the nation. This was a couple years ago. Montana ranks second in the nation in wrongful convictions. I'll get to that, yes. Second in the nation, in the republic, in wrongful convictions, only to Illinois, because in Chicago, like 6 or 7 years ago, there was what was known as the Sergeant Watts scandal. The police department framed a lot of people over, I believe it was a bunch of drug charges or something, which were eventually overturned. I mean, I'm talking hundreds. So Montana comes in second place in wrongful convictions, and yes, you are right. Guess who the top county is in Montana? It's Cascade County. So we're going to continue pushing to mandate that our county attorneys use grand juries, state grand jury, in order to indict somebody for a serious crime. So
I still have to get this. I didn't answer the one in the back. No, I don't hold Pam responsible at all. Me personally, I didn't get to answer that, and I need to put my head on the pillow for that.
Last question. What would have been the harm in Jacob Try just waiting a little bit longer?
We would love to have that question answered for you. We don't have that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions?
How's it going? My name is Josh Butterfly with the Prairie Warriors Tribal Council. And I'm actually going to be providing you with some answers to some of the questions that you guys have put out here to the people in regards to the Slaughter family because this goes back to 1996, and it had to do with, when the reservation, especially the Blackfeet, they introduced the juvenile detention centers. And one of the people that's behind this whole scandal that you guys are dealing with, I'm a numbers guy, so I look at the funding and, the different things that go through. And Frances Onstead, I want to point you guys in a direction. Frances Onstead, she's with our one of our native organizations here, and she's the star behind all of this that happened. She went to prison for fraud on a reservation, and what we're dealing with is the same people, her crew while she was in prison. They're the ones that jumped on the Eloise Cabell, and they gerrymandered through slaughter, through the Department of Corrections. And what this did was it placed a burden on our reservations, and it kept $180 million from our reservation.
Well, why don't you meet us after, and then we will definitely do that, because we still want to stay some for some more questions, and we'll look into it.
I want a DV-7-20225-000207 or dash OC, and that's a current case that we have in with Best Court, and so we do have an avenue in there. You guys are just now coming onto the scene with what we're doing, and I'm a native representative for the Trump administration. I also work with the missing and murdered Indigenous people, but there are some things. What we did was we were able to get 98,000 of the IWF money paid back. We had a guaranteed win. So what I'm going to do is give you guys an option to walk through the store with us and to finally, put this all to rest, because right now we have it in audit, and we're pursuing criminal charges, especially on Judge Best and these Jesse Slaughter and Josh Racky, because they're connected to the terrorist group Antifa through these Western Native Voice, through these S.J. Howell and Zoe Zephyr. So I did provide you with a lot of information, so I want to give you...
Got a lot to read. I got some bedtime reading. But yeah, I definitely want to be something that we're chatting with you guys in the future. Because like we've said, like all of this, and that's why we've sort of called this the Cascade Effect, is because there's a lot of things that have resulted from this, and a lot of folks have come forward with us with a lot of different cases. So thank you, and we'll definitely be in touch.
And I also have a message from the brothers and sisters inside the correctional institutions, and they said they're going to stand behind you 100%. Because you're fighting for them as well. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I know, and we are just getting a little bit after 9, so don't want to keep everyone here too late, but we appreciate everyone who came along. Jake, it looks like you want to...
I got one more thing to say.
Yeah, go for it.
2 days ago, your Sheriff Slaughter, stood in front of a pachyderm meeting and warned them about coming here. Now, there's only 2 reasons why a sheriff would do that. 1, he's scared of the truth, or 2, he thinks you're gullible and are going to fall prey to misinformation or disinformation. So sit with that, because there's no reason, it is incredibly inappropriate for a sheriff to be warning people about coming to a peaceful gathering to see information about a case that he has worked on.
And all the information is there for you. You can go to the Cascade Effect, go on there, go to Peaceful Seas. You can read all of the documents. We've tried to be as transparent as we possibly can. We tried to be objective. We sent, Jake personally, and sent the invitations to speak with the Sheriff's Department way before we even got into any audio or video or making any of this or anything, to hear their side, and we invited that, and we got nothing. So we tried every avenue to make sure that they were informed, they came and talked with us, and for a sheriff to sit there and say, if you need truth, you can come to me. That is outrageous at all levels. And again, I think I said this in the podcast a couple of times. The citizens are waking up. We're not as ignorant as they say we are anymore. We are not there. Is this hard to do? Yes. Does it take up your time to look up laws and look up case law and have these discussions? Yes. Our families have paid for it. My wife, oh God, you have no idea.
Poor wife.
Yeah, my poor wife. And you know, seriously, we can't thank them enough too, the Hansen family, and to sit and cry with them and to listen to their story and to try to still be objective in all of that is incredibly hard to do. And I ask you to stay objective, go and listen and look at the information, and then come with your conclusions. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you all. Make sure you check out the merch on your way out, and also grab